I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
The markets celebrate a 2-week ceasefire as the United States declares victory over Iran. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
All the news you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
And exhale. Oil prices are way down. The stock market is in full rally mode after a dramatic 24 hours that saw U.S. President Donald Trump threaten to destroy an entire civilization and then hours later announce a 2-week ceasefire in the war with Iran. At the Pentagon today, the United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth declared victory over Iran.
This new regime was out of options and out of time, so they cut a deal. They know this agreement means that they will never, ever possess a nuclear weapon. Under the terms, any nuclear material they should have will be removed. Any material, they should not have will be removed. Right now, their dust is deeply buried and watched 24/7 overhead. The president has been clear from the beginning, there will be no Iranian nuclear weapons. Period. Full stop. Other presidents said it. President Trump did it.
In a post on social media, Trump called this development a big day for world peace. He said the U.S. would help with traffic buildup in the Strait of Hormuz, and he said lots of money would be made. When asked what the U.S. military plans to do in the region now, Secretary Hegseth said the U.S. military would be hanging around.
We're going to make sure Iran complies with this ceasefire and then ultimately comes to the table and makes a deal. So we'll stay put, stay ready, stay vigilant, as the chairman laid out. Our troops are prepared to defend, prepared to go on offense, prepared to restart at a moment's notice with whatever target package would be needed in order to ensure that Iran complies. As far as the Strait, you saw the initial agreement that was struck, which is Iran's letting ships go through. So they'll be that will be happening. They will be sailing, and ultimately, as the president, we've done an incredible job militarily inside the Strait of Hormuz. What Admiral Cooper, I failed to mention Admiral Cooper's name. He's done a phenomenal job along with everybody at AFCENT, NAVCENT, and ARSENT, and all the components down there, laying the groundwork for Iran. Iran doesn't have the same ability to defend it the way they did before, and so as the president has pointed out to the rest of the world, we barely get any of our energy out of the Strait. Just a tiny fraction. It's time for the rest of the world to step up and ensure that that stays open after President Trump and the War Department brought Iran to the place where they are voluntarily opening it right now, as was announced last night.
Also briefing reporters at the Pentagon today was the U.S. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Air Force General Dan Kane. He was asked what would happen if the ceasefire doesn't hold.
U.S. CENTCOM will continue to monitor that situation. They will continue to have a series of response options, and if need be, will come to the Secretary and to the President for guidance and be prepared to do the things that they're ordered to do so against valid military targets in accordance with the normal procedures that we have.
Speaking in Hungary today, where he has been campaigning on behalf of that country's leader, Viktor Orban, the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, called the agreement with Iran a fragile truce.
What the president set out to do was decimate the Iranian military, decimate their ability to wage conventional war. And that military objective, as the president said yesterday, as I said yesterday, has been achieved. What the president did is he basically issued an ultimatum to the Iranians. He said, open up the straits, stop trying to hold the world's economy hostage, and we'll engage in a ceasefire. And that's exactly the agreement that we came to last night. This is a fragile truce. You have people who clearly want to come to the negotiating table and work with us to find a good deal. And then you have people who are lying about even the fragile truce that we've already struck. If the Iranians are willing, in good faith, to work with us, I think we can make an agreement. If they're going to lie, if they're going to cheat, if they're going to try to prevent even the fragile truce that we've set up from taking place, then they're not going to be happy. They're going to find out that the President of the United States is not one to mess around.
In a stunning social media post a little more than 24 hours ago, Trump said, quote, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. Pete Hegseth today said the Trump administration could have followed through on that threat, but instead chose mercy.
President Trump had the power to cripple Iran's entire economy in minutes, but he chose mercy. He spared those targets because Iran accepted the ceasefire under overwhelming pressure.
And Hegseth claimed that in the end, Iran was begging for a ceasefire.
President Trump forged this moment. Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. As the President truth this morning, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough.
President Trump is scheduled to have a face-to-face meeting with Mark Rutte today, the Secretary General of NATO. That's supposed to happen at 3:30 Eastern Time this afternoon in the Oval Office. As for reaction to all of this on financial markets, as mentioned, stock market in rally mode with the Dow up 1,200 points and the NASDAQ up more than 600. The S&P 500 up 160 or so, a gain of 2.5% on the day. The TSX main index up 460 points, up 1.4%. Oil prices down 16% for the WTI contract, $94.70 U.S. a barrel. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
We have some breaking political news out of Ottawa as the Liberals have lured another Conservative MP to cross the floor. This time it's Marilyn Gladu, a longtime Conservative MP from the Sarnia, Ontario area. For more on that, and we may talk some provincial politics today as well. We are joined by Professor Laurie Turnbull from Dalhousie University. Hi, Professor. Welcome back.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
What do you think of this latest floor crossing?
I mean, a couple of things. One is that the timing of it, I'm fascinated by the timing of all these floor crossings. It always seems to happen at this kind of pivotal moment where there's this really dramatic narrative around it. And so this one is right in time for the Liberal convention, which is going to happen this weekend in Montreal. And it's also in time to kind of take the edge off the by-election in Terrebonne. So there's 3 by-elections on Monday. 2 of them are almost guaranteed to go to Liberal. They're the 2 of the most safe Liberal seats in the country. But Terrebonne in Quebec is a toss-up. And they've been really focused on this one to try to get that one to go the Liberal way, obviously, because if all 3 by-elections were going to go Liberal, that would bring them to 173. But now, with Gladu crossing, it would be 174. And so they're building that majority piece by piece. And so, it's interesting. Interesting to see it.
Well, it's interesting as well that it's Marilyn Gladu. Marilyn Gladu is a conservative. She is a conservative. Not only a conservative, she, in some aspects, is a social conservative. She is blue. She is not a red Tory. 100%. What do you think about that?
So that's the other really interesting part, is that prior to now, the floor crossings all looked kind of, you could see it, right? It was like, well, if things were different and we still had a progressive conservative party federally, you could imagine a world where Carney would be in that party. So would Chris D'Entremont, so would Michael Moss, so would Matt Genereux. Like, it's not hard to imagine that. And maybe there is a like-mindedness that it's easy enough for them to gather around. And then when Lori Idlow crossed the floor from Nunavut, there was a sense that, he's not just appealing to red Tories, he's also appealing to people who have identified as NDP. But you could imagine in that case, too, with the fact that the MP was from the north, Carney has such a commitment to Arctic sovereignty, things like that, you could imagine a scenario where that was kind of, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But as you say, Marilyn Gladu is a conservative. She's blue. She has, she was not in favor of legalized cannabis. She tried to run for the Conservatives at one point, and they wouldn't let her.
She tried to run. Yeah, she tried to run against Aaron O'Toole for the Conservative Party leadership.
I don't know why the party disqualified her, whether it was she didn't make the financial threshold or what it was. But anyway, she's not somebody who you would look across the benches of the Conservatives and think that she's a potential flight risk. But yeah, here she is. And so that says to me that there's something else going on here. And this might be the one not like the others. This might be, she's leaving because she doesn't care. She's going to put all that on the back burner and say she wants to be part of the winning team, or she wants to see something, by way of economic growth and development that maybe she thinks is more possible with Carney. Maybe she hates Poilievre. I don't know. But it seems like this one is more of maybe more backstory here than the other ones.
Okay. So there will be questions raised again about Mr. Poilievre's leadership. What do you think this says about that?
I mean, at a certain point, you can't attribute all of this to, okay, Mark Carney is a different cat than Justin Trudeau, and maybe people are realigning because of that. I think that there is reason to think that actually Ms. Gladu and Mr. Carney, there might be a long list of things they don't agree on. There might be fundamental things they don't agree on, but she'd still rather sit in that caucus than the Conservative one. And I think there has to be questions about, what is Pierre Poilievre's ability to hold his caucus together at this point? If you've got people, who again, like have sat with the Conservatives for 10 years, but have a clear values alignment that seems to be much more in line with the Conservative ideology than the Liberal one, but yet they're floor crossing anyway. And so I have to think this is another bad day for Poilievre. And I think he's still trying to make the argument that this is not the way to put together a majority. This is backroom deals. I don't think that's going to fly, right? Like he's trying to deflect any responsibility for it, and I don't think that's going to work.
I do wonder about Mark Carney's own caucus. There are a lot of people in that caucus who would not identify in any way with the politics of Marilyn Gladu. I do wonder what some of his own MPs might think about this. This is who we're welcoming into the Liberal Party now? What do you think of that?
Well, that's the flip side of it, right? Is that some people in the Liberal Party might be sitting there thinking, listen, boss, like we were walking into a majority anyway, right? Like not to be a total jerk about this and not to put it in totally transactional terms, but did they need this? Like, did the Prime Minister, it's not like Marilyn Gladu was the only thing between him and a majority. Like, he was on his way anyway. They probably will win Terrebonne. And even if they don't, they'll get 172. And so some people might look at this and say, listen, like, I understand you want to win. I understand we want a majority, but still, is there a point where if it's basically a transactional thing where somebody has a conversation and, it's a good conversation and therefore they end up in the party, is there a point at which the party ideology, the party values don't really mean anything? And the groupings that they're sitting with are for the purpose of getting legislation through. And, the party itself is not necessarily all kind of around the same values. And of course, there are going to be difference in opinion in a big party. That's the point. Big parties are supposed to perform a brokerage function, pull people together, figure out how to build bridges between people who don't agree on everything. Like, that's the game. But is there a point, though, where when you've got people sitting in there that clearly there's lots of stuff that she wouldn't line up with the Liberals on, you start to wonder what the point is.
Okay. When we return, if you'll give us a few more minutes, Professor Turnbull, the reason I wanted to talk to you today originally until this breaking news was what's been happening in Nova Scotia, because the Tim Houston PC government has been at loggerheads with First Nations in that province over illegal cannabis storefronts on reserves, and it's getting pretty heated there. So let's talk about that when we come back. This is News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Professor Laurie Turnbull is with us from Dalhousie University in Halifax, where the Tim Houston PC government has been fighting with First Nations over illegal cannabis shops on reserves. Now, Professor, the Premier's position is the only place to sell cannabis legally in Nova Scotia is at the province's liquor stores, and that the storefronts on these reserves are breaking the law. He has also alleged that they're involved in other criminal activities. First Nations leaders are saying this conflict isn't even about cannabis for us. It's rather who has authority on Mi'kmaq land. And over the last several months, the RCMP has moved in. They've raided these storefronts. And in the last week or so, I would say things have escalated because First Nations protesters have been setting up demonstrations on the province's highways. They've brought traffic to a standstill. The Premier's not impressed. Why do you think he's taking such a hard line on this?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm from Cape Breton, and I know the area that it's a small place, and the issue is Premier Houston is saying that there's no treaty right to sell cannabis. And so he's saying, you know, as you said, the only legitimate way, the only legal way for cannabis to be sold in the province is through the government stores. And so the way they do it in Nova Scotia is all of the liquor sale is through what's called the NSLC. And so when cannabis was legalized, then the NSLC stores are, not all of them, but they're the ones who are dispersing the cannabis as well. And there's some that are, I think, only sell cannabis. And so the government kind of has a hold on this, and they're saying, you know, this is not legitimate. But this is not the way to have this conversation. This is just, you know, the RCMP raid, and then there's a total blow up. And so I don't think this is going to be something that is going to be easy for the Premier to put back in the tube. This is also a moment where he's kind of on the ropes for a few things at this point. Tim Houston has enjoyed a lot of popularity. And now,
Yes.
You know, he's a little bit down, not hugely, but he's a little bit down in the polls. There's protesters at the legislature. People are mad at him over the budget. They're tired of him not showing up in the House. And so it's all kind of blowing up at once.
Yeah, I want to get to this. You mentioned the Cape Breton Reserve. Member 2 would be the Cape Breton Reserve. The chief there is Terry Paul. Very influential, not just in First Nations politics, but in politics and in business. And the Band Council passed a resolution stating that the province and the RCMP have no right to carry out enforcement on Mi'kmaq lands. And there have been similar statements from other First Nations communities. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, Terry Paul is a legend in Nova Scotia and elsewhere. I mean, he's somebody who, you want to talk about meaningful reconciliation. He has been a champion. He was part of the deal that was negotiated around Clearwater, which has been hugely important for Indigenous people and First Nations in Nova Scotia. And so he's somebody who has a lot of trust, a lot of legitimacy, both within First Nations communities and outside by the business community. Like he's about as legit as it gets. And so it's an interesting thing to see this kind of that be part of the story as well, because he has a lot of trust from people. And so, yeah, I mean, this doesn't look like it's going to get solved anytime soon. That's for sure.
Okay. Where do you think the general public is on the issue? Any sense of that very quickly?
I mean, I think it's not, to be honest, it's not necessarily top of mind for the public. To be totally blunt about it, people are worried about affordability, cost of gas, the cost of homes, the same things that everybody else are worried about. I don't think that many people are going to care about what happens, and they don't necessarily see why the government is deciding to take this hard line.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you, Professor Turnbull. Always good to hear from you from Dalhousie.
Anytime.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Yep. Yep. Our Newsday panel coming up. We'll start with the floor crossing news out of Ottawa today. That's big news in politics. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
With our Wednesday Newsday political panel, Ashton Arsenault's back with us, partner at Crestview Strategies. Welcome back, Ashton. Good to hear from you.
Thanks, Rob. Good to be here.
Yeah, and Tom Parkin, Social Democratic columnist, commentator based in Toronto. Tom, welcome back. Big news day in politics.
Absolutely.
Good to be with you.
Yeah. Hi, Tom. All right, Ashton, let's start with you. There's been a floor crossing again. It's a Conservative MP again, a name not too many Conservatives would have expected to cross the floor to the Liberals, Marilyn Gladue. Liberal MP Marilyn Gladue now. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's just it. I think it's safe to say no one had this one on their bingo card. To my knowledge, she's never come up in the many, many rumors that continue to swirl on potential floor crossers. And just on those rumors, many say that there are even more to follow, which I'm not surprised by in the lead up to the Liberal convention this week in Montreal. But to just illustrate the haste on this for you, Rob, your listeners, they might not be aware that Gladue has been a rather outspoken member of Parliament on a number of issues that don't exactly align with the Liberal caucus, including abortion, vaccine mandates. She's even gone as far as to call on MPs to resign in the event that they consider to cross the floor to trigger a by-election. So I think it goes to show how badly the government wants this majority and what it's willing to do to get there. And to me, it's all a bit ironic in the name of political expediency. And just to be clear, her reasons, which she did put out a statement, they don't make much sense to me either. She claims to be in a bellwether riding. She isn't. She's had this seat since 2015, and she won her last election by 12,000 votes.
Yeah, she won with 53% of the vote in the last election. I'll get more into that with you as we make our way through the program. Let's get some immediate reaction from Tom Parkin. What do you think of this one, Tom Parkin?
Yeah, no, the idea that Marilyn Gladue would become a member of the Liberal caucus is kind of stunning for all the reasons already stated. She's really a social conservative. Here's my thinking about this, Rob. Carney really started off trying to diminish the differences between himself and Poilievre and the Conservative Party on economic issues. So, axe the tax, he adopted that. He had a tax cut for the income tax. He did various things. That was sort of an attempt to Bigfoot the Conservative Party and reduce any differences. And that succeeded on the economic front. This one is kind of on the social front, where we have now this encroachment and diminishment of difference between the Liberals and the Conservatives on issues, on social issues, and particularly with Gladue, as mentioned, the COVID restrictions, the role, abortion, things like that. So social conservatism is now welcome in the Liberal tent. So it does lead me to think that there's kind of conscious strategy at work in Carney's mind to become the natural broad coalition of power, with no particular ideology or purpose other than power. And he'll take it whatever way he can get it. And some people are open to that. Some MPs are open to that because they think it works for them personally, or maybe it works for the riding. I mean, to not be entirely dismissive. But it seems very much to be power moves rather than moves about any particular philosophy of government or idea about what we're trying to achieve.
All right. Okay. As I said, there's going to be questions raised about Poilievre's leadership. If Poilievre can lose what I would describe as a dyed-in-the-wool conservative like Marilyn Gladue, I mean, who else could he lose? He could lose all of them, you would think. Maybe not MPs from Alberta, maybe. But Ashton, what does this say about Poilievre's ability to keep a hold on his caucus?
Well, Rob, I mean, he's already lost an MP from Alberta. But, I think...
Yeah, from Edmonton, though.
Yeah,
Redmonton.
That's true. Yeah, look, he's going to be facing a difficult media day, to be sure. I think as of last night, his communications director quit as well, so that's not making anything easier in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think, in a few ways, it's sort of death by a thousand cuts here. And the problem is nobody knows how many more drips are going to come out of the faucet. I think I'll give credit where credit is due to the government. They have done a remarkable job at keeping these conversations behind closed doors and otherwise secret. Just nobody knew that today was coming. And you can say the same for the rest of the floor crossers as well. And that in and of itself actually takes a pretty big chunk of skill. So, yeah, look, I think Poilievre and his team will do the obvious, and that's point out the many, many, many statements that MP Gladue has made that are critical of the government and issues that probably are not going to align her well with the vast majority of that caucus. I actually want to know how the government caucus thinks about this, but maybe it's a bit too early for that.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah. You know, I want to know if those Trudeau Liberals, and there are many of them, how they feel, Tom, about welcoming someone with the political background of Marilyn Gladue into their caucus, and what that says about the Liberal Party of Canada.
It's changed. It is not the same party it was 18 months ago. We can definitely say that. Under Trudeau, part of the vetting process was candidates were supposed to be pro-choice. That was a vet. You could not become. If you were an older MP, you could be allowed again. But if you were trying to become an MP and wanted a nomination, you had to be pro-choice. So that is gone. So those older Trudeau folks who came under that idea, they may chafe at this, but we'll see what they do about it. Probably nothing. But if I can just, as for Mr. Poilievre, here's the problem I think Mr. Poilievre faces in the immediate communications problems. He can say Marilyn Gladue is a bad person because she betrayed her cause. But, she was in the Conservative caucus forever. So what does that say about the Conservative caucus? That's not a great argument. He can say this is an unfair practice by Mr. Carney. He's getting by the back door what voters wouldn't give him through the ballot box. And that is true. But, hey, it's no fair. That doesn't do very much either. I think probably his best course of action is to try and lay a little bit low today, or as low as possible, and then try and pivot to something new shortly. That shows that the Conservative Party has something to offer Canadians, because right now it doesn't. As I said before, everything that Carney has been doing for the last year or a little bit more has been about reducing the differences between Liberals and Conservatives. So I don't know where he moves next to try to be something unique that Conservatives can say, I'm going to vote for that guy because.
Okay. When we come back, let's talk about the by-elections coming up on Monday and how this changes really the urgency of those by-election outcomes when we return to our Wednesday Newsday political panel. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
On a big political news day, we're here with Ashton, Arsenault partner at Crestview Strategies, and Tom Parkin, columnist and commentator out of Toronto, more of the New Democratic persuasion. If you, Tom, were to be a betting man, what would you predict the outcome to be in these upcoming by-elections on Monday? Do you see 2 out of 3 for the Liberals, a clean sweep of all 3? What do you think?
Well, I would be pretty certain that we're talking at least 2 of 3, and by the kind of resources that I think that the Liberals are putting into Terrebonne, which is just a little bit north and east of Montreal. It's really suburban Montreal in a way. Exurban, I guess. Clean sweep is certainly in the possibilities, and that means majority government. And there's implications about that in terms of confidence, but also about committees. That goes to the idea of who could be dragged in front of the committee. So there's a lot riding on this for Mr. Carney's security and basically his consolidation of power over Parliament.
Okay. What are you predicting, Ashton?
I think they're going to run the slate. I think Terrebonne is still going to be pretty close. We saw some early numbers over the weekend of advanced turnout. Terrebonne is leading the way. Mm-hmm. I think I could probably make a correlation that, that is a direct result of Liberal resources going into the riding, which Tom mentioned. It's a really interesting seat. There's also sort of a microcosm in that let's call it a snow globe that thinks a lot about national unity issues as well. So I do think it's going to be close, but I think the momentum is on the Liberal Party side, and so I think they're going to end up with 3 out of 3.
And how do you think that changes kind of the dynamic of our politics, Ashton? How does that change things? It's a pretty stable minority right now. It's a pretty stable minority right now. How is this going to change things?
Yeah, so Rob, after today, they have the majority in the bag, right? So let's just think beyond Monday, they're going to have a majority government. But it's not necessarily a majority government in practice. And that's why I was really surprised that the Prime Minister last week completely shut down the prospect of proroguing Parliament. That was really surprising to me because that would be the easiest way for them to solve a lot of challenges. The mechanics of a majority government are obviously a lot different. It gives the government, let's say, a 2 to 3 year lease on life at least. And so what happens next and what happens at committees is going to be important, but you can't just snap your fingers and make that happen. So that's sort of the next big change to take place. But the government's not going to have to deal with confidence votes, right? Well, they will, but they'll be able to win them, obviously, as a majority government. It's the committee stuff that is really going to matter in the next little bit.
I mean, if it's going to be a majority government come Monday night, Tom, what it does in effect is it gives the New Democrats who have a new leader, it gives the Conservatives with all of their leadership questions right now, it gives them lots of runway if there's not going to be an election for a year or whatever, Tom. Oh, he just dropped. Okay. Yeah, Tom's been having some cell phone issues. Okay, so why don't we stop? We'll stop a little bit early, and we'll come back. The Conservative Party has some new ads. They've done an ad buy. They have an ad about affordability, and they have an ad featuring Pierre Poilievre talking about, I guess, his vision for Canadian sovereignty. We can talk about that when we come back. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
So again, we're back with Tom Parkin and Ashton Arsenault. We're talking politics on a Wednesday. And the Conservative Party has a pair of new ads. And I want to run them by you. The first one, I think, is much better than the second one. The first one, affordability. And if you picture it, it's a mother and her daughter, and they're at the grocery store. Let's play it.
Canadians will hold account by their experience at the grocery store. They will form those judgments, and then, of course, accountability comes at the ballot box.
Mom, can we get those?
Not today. Everything's just so expensive.
Has it always been this bad?
I'm worried it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty good. This one is more about Canadian sovereignty. It features Pierre Poilievre's voice. Roll that.
History will not judge us by the disruptions we faced, but by how we responded. By whether we surrendered to events or mastered what lay within our power. By a country that stands on its own feet, is master in its own home, that bows before no nation, a country that is unbreakable. My friends, my ambition, and I believe the ambition of all Canadians, is for Canada to be that country.
All right. What do you think about the ads, Ashton?
Yeah, I think it's a good 1-2 punch. You've got the contrast piece on affordability, really easy to digest narrative. Has your life gotten better over the last 10-ish years, 11 years now? So I think that's easy to resonate. And obviously the timing for that is right, whether it be, reviewing your credit card statement because you just went to the gas station, or noticing rampant food inflation on all of the things that otherwise sustain household. So I think that's a winner. On the sovereignty piece, I think that's sort of more of a message of hope, right? So the 1-2 punch being direct contrast, and the second being more visionary. And look, I think it's consistent with the trend that Pierre Poilievre has been on for the last little bit, getting a lot more of his messaging out there, taking a lot more swings through various media channels, whether it be podcasts or traditional media. And the reality is the Conservative Party still has a very healthy war chest. So they have all of the means at their disposal to make sure that these messages get seen far and wide. So, yeah, I like both ads, actually.
Okay, likes both of them. What do you think, Tom, about the ads?
Well, for me, they lack content. I think the first one is better than the second one because, I mean, I can relate to it absolutely that the price of everything has gone up. Food has gone up. Gas has gone up and is going up more. So there's that anxiety there, and he's touching on it. That's good politics. But he doesn't say what he's going to do about it. So how helpful is that? In terms of groceries, on the left, we have now Avi Lewis who's talking. You know, some people say it's outlandish, but at least he has ideas of what he's trying to do about getting the price of food down, and he's getting attacked from that. But where are the ideas? And on the second, I mean, everybody's in favor of United Canada if you're a federal leader. I honestly didn't feel the emotion in it. So, you know, this is the problem I think that Mr. Poilievre has. He doesn't have real policy or content distinction anymore. He had axe the tax. He had all these kind of pieces that were easily digestible. They were small, but they also meant something. They were repeatable, but meant something. And now he's lacking that stuff. And I didn't hear it in either one. That could have been an ad for Avi Lewis in the NDP, the first one.
All right. Maybe that's by design, Tom. You never know. Okay. Thank you.
Very
good. Very good. Thank you, Ashton Arsenault. Great to hear from you again.
Thanks, everybody.
Partner at Crestview Strategies, Tom Parkin, Social Democratic columnist and commentator based in Toronto. I'm Rob Snow. Talkback is coming up next. We're going to talk about the war, the developments in the last 24 hours, and the United States declaring victory in Iran. Victory with a capital V, according to Pete Hegseth today. We want to know if that's how you see it. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today's topic, the ceasefire. The 2-week ceasefire that was announced last night during a briefing at the Pentagon today. The United States Secretary of Defense declared victory over Iran. So here's what we want to know. The United States is declaring victory in its war with Iran. Is that how you see it? Do you view this ceasefire agreement as the United States winning the war in Iran? Do you view this ceasefire agreement as the United States winning the war? Yes, no, why not? 1-833-668-2577. That's our call-in line, 1-833-668-2577. Lines available now. Let's listen to a little bit of what Pete Hegseth had to say during his briefing today at the Pentagon.
Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. As the President truth this morning, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital V military victory.
A capital V military victory. Historic victory on the battlefield. Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Let's listen to a little bit more of what the U.S. Secretary of Defense said today during this briefing. Clip 2, please.
By any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come. You see, in less than 40 days, one of our combatant commands, Central Command, CENTCOM, using less than 10% of America's total combat power, dismantled one of the world's largest militaries. The world's leading state sponsor of terrorism proved utterly incapable of defending itself, its people, or its territory. We untied just a fraction of our strength, and Iran suffered a devastating military defeat.
A devastating military defeat. Victory with a capital V. Is that how you see it? Or do you see it a different way? However you see it, however you view it, we want to know your opinion on it. At 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Is it true that this is a devastating military defeat? This is a great victory for the United States over its longtime nemesis, Iran? You hear the claims the United States did severe damage to Iran's own military capabilities. Its ability to build missiles essentially has been destroyed. Its Navy and its Air Force have suffered catastrophic losses. There have been losses suffered by senior Iranian officials, many of whom were killed during this war. And the Trump administration has said one of the main objectives was to make sure Iran could never have a nuclear weapon, and that the possibility of that happening now, according to Pete Hegseth, that threat has been eliminated. That is the framing of the American position today. Iran's military is pretty much destroyed. Its senior leadership has been decapitated. It can't make a nuclear weapon anymore. And the United States accomplished this in the span of less than 40 days. Total victory. Victory with a capital V. Historic. A historic victory on the battlefield. Again, is that how you see it? 1-833-668-2577. Or do you look at it another way? The oil price is way down today, but this has been described as the worst oil shock in recent memory. Far worse than the oil shocks of the 70s. And even with the price back down to the low to mid $90 range, oil prices are still up 50% in the last month. Look at gas prices and what's happened there, diesel prices, what's happened there, and how that's going to ripple through the economy. Gas prices in the United States still averaging more than $4 a gallon. Concerns about inflation, concerns about a recession. And the longer the Strait of Hormuz remained closed, the worse it was getting day after day after day. There was an enormous financial cost to this war. By some estimates, it was costing American taxpayers anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion a day. The Pentagon was asking for another $200 billion in war funding. The Trump administration wants to up defense spending to $1.5 trillion. Some estimates so far for this war are between $20 and $30 billion in about 6 weeks. What about what we're hearing about early days of the war? The Trump administration said it wasn't concerned with regime change, although Trump encouraged Iranians to topple their own government. Then Trump started saying regime change has happened. He said that just a couple of days ago. And that the people he's negotiating with now are better people. But there are all kinds of other reports that say this is the same regime, and it's still the Islamic Republic of Iran with an Islamic Revolutionary Guard. And what about the political costs to this war coming up in November? It was never a popular war to begin with. Trump's approval ratings aren't great. 60% of Americans disapprove of the job he's doing, and his scores are even worse on foreign affairs. Midterms are coming. Higher oil prices, high gas prices, the increasing chance of a recession because of the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. Mixed messaging on the regime change angle. Midterm election campaigns already underway. So the case is being made as well that the United States had its own reasons to try and find a way out of this war, and now it has, at least for the next 2 weeks. That's another way to look at it. How do you look at it? One of the faces of this war is Pete Hegseth, and he says the United States has won the war. It's victory with a capital V. Is that how you see it? Or do you see it a different way? 1-833-668-2577. That's our call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that. We'll make your call a priority and tell us how you see this war. A great victory for the United States? Or do you see it some other way? I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It's Talkback. So talk back on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The United States is declaring victory in its war with Iran. The United States Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, called it a historic victory on the battlefield. Let's play that first clip again.
Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. As the President truth this morning, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital
overwhelming
V.
and historic. Yeah. Victory with a capital V. Is that how you see it, or do you see it a different way? We want to know how you see it. 1-833-668-2577. We have about 3 lines available there. It won't be too long at all. It's Talkback. To Red Deer. First is Paul, first-time caller. Thank you for calling, Paul. Hi there.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, Paul. How are you?
Good. Good, thank you.
Good.
So
how do you see this?
My thoughts are, how do you claim victory when nothing has really changed? I mean, they bombed the heck out of Iran. What has happened? The gas prices have gone up. The diesel prices have gone up. The U.S. has spent probably hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars dropping bombs on these guys. I don't see any accomplishment, so I don't understand what the victory would be. Usually when there's a victory, you've earned something, you've won something. But right now, the country, the United States, is just basically having a little bit of a break. They haven't taken out any more nuclear sites. They haven't taken possession of the uranium, which they said they wanted. I just don't see any advantage to what they've done.
Okay. Well, you hear the claims. Iran's military destroyed senior leadership, killed, can't make a nuclear weapon anymore. So it's a victory.
They're talking about regime change. Who has actually changed the regime? It seems as though whoever in Iran has just appointed the next guy to step up and be taken out. Usually when the United States interfere with world dealings, you never get rid of them. They come in, they set up base, and they never want to leave, and always want a piece of your country for some reason. Venezuela, now they're guiding Venezuela on how they're going to direct oil. Cuba will be next, and I'm sure there'll be multiple countries coming shortly after. But I just don't see a victory.
The description is victory with a capital V. You don't buy it. You don't see it.
I think she's a lowercase V with a question mark behind right now.
All right. Fair enough, Paul. Thank you. 1-833-668-2577 to Cambridge. Sean is in Cambridge. Hello, Sean.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, Sean.
I think it's sort of funny that it ended on Taco Tuesday, like myself. But right. I think they're pretty delusional. Regime change. So they have the Ayatollah's son in, who's more hardline and younger. The Ayatollahs, and I was just reading it right now. Iran has again closed the Straits of Hormuz because Israel has attacked Lebanon. Oh, I guess they taught them a lesson, didn't they? So I really don't see. And then Hegseth says they were begging for a
ceasefire.
As we all know. So Iran was not begging for a ceasefire. I didn't read it anywhere. So those very words he used. Yeah, he has. There's no source for Iran begging for a ceasefire. They've still got the straits closed. There was no gain. And as for the nuclear bomb thing, I mean, didn't they tell us how long ago was it when they said they had destroyed Iran's nuclear capability? How long ago was that? They said they set them back. They said they
obliterated.
Set them back years. Obliterated. Yeah, that was it. So did they suddenly grow them miraculously again, or like what's going on there? Or are they making up stuff?
Okay, so you don't think it's victory with a capital V?
No, I think it's delusion with a capital D.
Delusion with a capital D. Okay.
It's even getting worse because now they're floating Amendment 25 stuff around after his obscene rant. So, wow. Going downhill from here.
All right. Yep, very good. Yeah, a number of people have raised that The strait appears to be closed again, the Strait of Hormuz. That's a Daily Mail story that's making the rounds right now. It reads, Iran has halted oil tankers transiting the Strait of Hormuz, launched a drone strike on a key Saudi oil pipeline, and demanded Israel cease its attacks on Lebanon. As Donald Trump's ceasefire deal faced a furious backlash from his own allies. 2 tankers were allowed through the strait Wednesday morning as the 2-week ceasefire with the U.S. took effect. But the Fars news agency reported later that the passage has been suspended, saying it was halted simultaneous with Israel's attacks on Lebanon. But the U.S. Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War calls this ceasefire victory with a capital V. We want to know how you see it. Do you see it that way or some other way? 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The United States is declaring victory in its war with Iran. Is that how you see this ceasefire? Let's ask Steve in Windsor, Nova Scotia. Hello, Steve. What do you think, Steve?
Hello, Rob. How are you?
Hi, Steve. Very good, Steve. Thank you. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with the comments that were just before. There is no victory at this point in time at all. But the one thing that is also, I think, is come out of all of this, they have allowed Iran to test their capability to wreak havoc on global economies just by shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. And that is I think that's a major card that Iran now has, and they're testing it out to see how it's working. And so how does the United States come up with the decision or the final solution that victory is theirs? It just doesn't exist. The original statement, I believe, by Donald Trump was we had to attack them because of Iran's imminent ability to be able to produce a nuclear bomb. That was the original statement by Donald Trump, and that hasn't occurred. That they haven't stopped because Iran didn't have the imminent ability to do that. The other thing that he did say in the very beginning to the people of Iran, rise up now. So the 2 main objectives have not been achieved. And if your 2 main objectives haven't been achieved, there is no victory at all. But it's ironic that the United States has allowed Iran to test out their capabilities. And so I just don't get it.
You don't get it. Okay. All right. Thank you for your comment. Oh, sorry, Steve. You can continue.
No.
Yes, okay.
What I don't get is their victory statement. But
their victory statement. Okay, that's why I'm asking. Because they're pretty emphatic. I mean, you hear the language. Historic victory on the battlefield. Victory with a capital V. I think it's very, as they say, emphatic.
There was no victory on the battlefield. There was victory in the air because they shut down most of Iran's airspace. But there was no victory on the battlefield because there has been no battle on ground. So this is just it's crazy. If anything's come out of this, Donald Trump has been able to train all of his people that work for him to be prolific liars, if anything. And I think that's where we are with Donald Trump now. That's just my comment.
Fair enough.
Thank you for.
Well, I appreciate it. This is why I'm asking. They're calling it victory with a capital V. I'm asking, is that how you see it, or do you see it a different way? And you see it a completely different way. And fair enough, sir. That's why we're gathering the opinions on Talkback today, and we will do so right after the latest breaking news. You can join the conversation at 1-833-668-2577.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know.
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
By any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come. You see, in less than 40 days, one of our combatant commands, Central Command, CENTCOM, using less than 10% of America's total combat power, dismantled one of the world's largest militaries. The world's leading state sponsor of terrorism proved utterly incapable of defending itself, its people, or its territory. We untied just a fraction of our strength, and Iran suffered a devastating military defeat.
A devastating military defeat, according to the U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth today, speaking during a briefing at the Pentagon. He also called it victory with a capital V, victory over Iran. Is that how you see it? That's what we're asking today, this 2-week ceasefire. 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Guelph. Peter is in Guelph. What's your opinion, Peter?
Hey, yeah, definitely not a victory. If anything, overwhelming failure. Pete Kegsbreath there is blatantly telling lies. If anyone who's been watching this knows, every single U.S. base was destroyed, and all the soldiers ran away to hotels. What was the beginning of the war? Before the war started, actually, Iran had said, "Okay, we agree, 0 enriched uranium." They also had their Ayatollah who said a nuclear bomb is against their core beliefs. But the United States attacked anyway. They waged an illegal war, and they lost. Blatant loss. It's fully a loss.
They lost? They lost? A blatant loss? Really?
They lost. Oh, yeah.
Despite
definitely.
Really?
Of course.
Despite the elimination of all of those members of the regime, all the destruction of the Iranian military apparatus?
That's done nothing. It's what they're just replacing those guys, and at the end of the day, Trump accepted their 10 terms. Right?
Okay. Well, as a starting point for these, further negotiations that will happen, right?
Well, no, the demands yes. They're accepting.
Right. There's this list of 10, and again, and I'm putting this to the test today. This claim of victory with a capital V, because I have my own doubts as well. I'm not going as far as you are going, but the 10 so-called demands, as I understand it, are kind of a working document that will be discussed over these next 2 weeks.
Well, what happened was, Trump came out with, regime change. Oh, well, we can't actually do that. Okay, but here's 15-point full surrender plan. But now look, those 15 demands out the window, don't exist anymore. And the 10 demands that Iran brought to the table as a counter, those are the ones that are being accepted. Those are the ones being talked about.
Okay. So when the Secretary of Defense calls it an historic victory on the battlefield, you don't see it that way. You see it as a complete defeat. Do you see this, as the United States running away with its tail between its legs? Would that be fair to say?
100%.
100%. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Let's put that to the test today. That's Peter in Guelph. That's his opinion. That's how he sees it. How do you see it? Let's go to Calgary for the first time today. Grant is in Calgary. Hello, Grant.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good, Grant. So you heard the previous caller. He thinks this is the United States running away with its tail between its legs. You have the Secretary of Defense calling it victory with a capital V. How do you see it?
I don't see any victory. I mean, maybe they had a victory in the air somewhat, but what kind of Air Force did they fight? Iran didn't have much of an Air Force. He said battleground, I thought I heard him say, and ground means ground. Yeah, so they weren't on the ground, they're in the air, but I mean, there's no Air Force. Iran does that. Why do they have to take on somebody with a real Air Force? These guys lie through their teeth all the time, and it's just becoming worse and worse every day. I think hopefully something changes here down the road, because what's the next 2 years going to be like? Somebody said Cuba could be next. Well, they got to be stopped. They can't just go around taking over countries whenever they want.
Okay. Well, they haven't taken over this country, and that's another thing. Who is running Iran right now? Because by all accounts, it seems to be the same people, is it not?
Yeah, well...
Is that how you see it?
Nothing's going to change. I mean, if it's the Khomeini guys or all these religious guys, nothing's going to change. I mean, back in the day, I've been told Iran was like a Florida of the Middle East, but once the Khomeini got in there, it all changed. Well, those guys in power, it's never going to change.
Okay. But as for this claim, this is victory with a capital V, historic victory, decisive military defeat. You don't see it. You don't see it that way. Okay. Thank you. Grant in Calgary. Frank is also in Calgary. He's a first timer on Talkback. Hello, Frank.
Hey, good morning. First of all, Ron, thanks for your program. I'm not going to ask you how you are because I know you're fine. I want to apologize on behalf of a whole lot of the earlier callers who not only infuriate normal people, but the reality is that I'm not a Trump supporter. Here's what Trump did. Whether we like it or we don't like it, there was a terrorist regime over there. All of a sudden, they've got no more leadership. Bingo. We can't construe it as a total victory for the U.S. as I see it. However, they've obliterated the Chinese and the Russian military materials that were handed over to Iran, so that's all been blown up. The oil flow, and I'm surprised nobody else talked about this yet. The oil flow from Iran to China was significantly discounted as far as sale price was concerned. And of course now they can't ship it, at least they haven't been able to for the last 8 weeks or whatever. And so therefore Russia and China has kept their mouths shut, which is very nice and highly unusual. Well, the bully went ahead and partially cleaned up a world mess. So all this innuendo about the U.S. not doing anything and that they just went around and they pounded up these poor Iranians is erroneous. I mean, they did the world a hell of a favor. To say that it's a total win is wrong because the religious folks are still in charge there, or appear to be, so they can intimidate women and become despots and continue to support terrorists around the world. But that all being said, it's certainly been diminished. So, Ron, that's what I have to say. You can shut me up here anytime now, and we'll.
No, that's okay. Thank you. No, thank you for sharing your opinion. We have to stop anyway, just because of time. 1-833-668-2577. We're just putting this to the test today as the United States declares victory, emphatic victory. You hear the Secretary of Defense, a historic victory on the battlefield, victory with a capital V. How do you see it? That's all we want to know. How do you see it? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The United States is declaring victory in its war with Iran. Victory with a capital V, according to the United States Secretary of Defense today, who also called it a historic victory on the battlefield. How do you see it? Peter in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Peter. What's your opinion?
Well, thanks for taking my call. I think it is a victory with a small V. The big V should be in about 2 weeks after, the negotiations for 2 weeks. That's part of the battlefield too. But Iran is now in a position where they want to sit at the table and talk, and that's progress. I think there's a victory in that the Supreme Leader is dispatched to the next world. He ordered, 30,000 peaceful demonstrators, Iranian people. Their lives are worth something. And, it was just an evil regime that had to be dismantled. And it was. And that is huge victory. For 60 years, Israel has had nothing but rockets. People couldn't in Israel couldn't sit in a restaurant not thinking that, maybe a rocket's going to come across the border. And that has to be settled in the next 2 weeks. Iran cannot be rattling the cage as it has for the last 30, 40, 50 years, death to the evil Satan and Palestine from shore to shore. No, Israel is a country and it has the right to exist. But the negotiations are part of all of this, and how that shapes up over the next 2 weeks determines whether the whole thing is a victory or not. That's my
Okay,
thought.
thank you. I appreciate you sharing it. Let's go to Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, and hear from Eric today. Hi, Eric.
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Yeah, very good, Eric. Thank you. Go ahead.
At first, I thought the war was going to be much shorter than it is, but I guess there was a few things that came to mind that I wasn't thinking of. But what I look at this as the United States is throwing a spike belt across the road of Iranian ambitions. They've done a lot to degrade their military capability. However, not enough, obviously, because they're still controlling the strait. Whoever controls that strait in the world will control the petrodollars, and that's probably the chief reason, in my view, why Trump went down to Venezuela and tried to take care of that. Is this over? No, it's not over. I'm afraid it's not. And what scares me for the world is the a possible involvement of North Korea and Russia in supplying armaments nobody wants to even imagine that could be used. And if you look at Israel, some reports are saying the cities in Israel are getting pounded. I can't substantiate that with valid verification, but if that's the case, you have a group of people that want to eradicate off the planet another group of people, then we could get ourselves into tactical nuclear weapons, and God have mercy on the world when that comes. Is it a victory? No. Is it
a victory with a capital V? Victory with a capital V is how they're describing it.
I think I'll put the analogy of a hockey game, Rob. I think the States has won the first period and a half, and we got a period and a half to go. So we'll see what happens. Like I say, I think that spike belt analogy in slowing down the ambitions of the Iranians has gone, but they haven't totally incapacitated them. So is it what you're looking for, a victory with a capital V? No, I don't think so.
Okay, kind of more of a TV timeout, I guess, Eric. Okay, thank you. Yep, for your call today. And it's been very busy so far on Talkback again today, but we do have some lines available. We've been going through the calls quite quickly today, so the wait won't be too long at 1-833-668-2577. We're asking you how you see this war right now. I mean, the Secretary of Defense is basically saying it's over, and it's been a historic victory for the United States over Iran. How do you see it? This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The United States Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, had a briefing at the Pentagon yesterday and called this ceasefire the signs of a historic victory on the battlefield for the United States over Iran. Victory with a capital V is what he called it. Victory with a capital V. We are asking today, is that how you see it? Let's go to Ira up next on Talkback. Hello, Ira.
Hello, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm very good, Ira. How are you?
I'm actually doing really well.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Conversation you guys are having.
Okay. Well, what's your contribution, Ira? Do you view this as victory with a capital V for the United States over Iran?
No, I don't. When I look at this war, what I see is just a great human failure towards humanity itself. I see two large countries, some of the most powerful countries in the world, deciding to sucker punch another country that simply wants to develop its energy grid and all that. And if you want to just think that, all they want to do is start fights and kill people, you really need to look at the people of Iran, not just the government. Going and assuming that the people are going to do nothing but evil simply because the government does that, it's not fair. And
I don't think that's what I'm hearing. I think as we've discussed this war over the last almost 2 months now, I have found a lot of the callers to this show do really differentiate between the people of Iran and the regime of Iran. They don't view them the same way. I think most people view the people of Iran as victims of their government. Would you agree that they're victims of their government?
I don't know. I've never actually been to Iran. I've had very little conversation with the people of Iran. However, I would say that I don't think my current government really represents me well, and I don't think the government of the United States properly represents its people well. I mean, you look at what they've done and you just see a whole lot of ethical issues and just a repeat of the same old foreign policy where they attack someone, say they won, as they did with, George Bush did that. He had this great big aircraft carrier and a party on that. This is just repeats. Right. You just see the same old people doing the same old stuff. They just have a different face.
All right, more of the same old, says Ira. Okay, thank you, Ira, for your call. To Jimmy up next. Let's go to Jimmy. Hi, Jimmy. All right, let's try Tony. Hi, Tony. You're up next on Talkback. Hi, Tony.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Yeah, very good, Tony. Thank you. What do you think?
Good. So, honestly, I was just listening to the last caller, and I think you nailed it, like 100%. It's the same thing over and over again. We're being fed lies. When you look at Iran, 96 million people, and their president can walk through the streets and shake people's hands, I don't think that's people being threatened or want to take over their government. I think we've been lied to, and this is all just a capital game between America and the world over oil and uranium and whatever they're taking over. And another thing too is there was no victory. I don't think that was a victory at all, because look what's going on in Lebanon. Lebanon last night, I got family in Lebanon. Lebanon got battered again. So where's the ceasefire? So history is just going to keep repeating. So when you're going to battle a country, you're going to cause a militia group to arm themselves.
Of course, there are two sides to that. Of course, there's Hezbollah. Hezbollah's, been in Lebanon forever now, right?
100%. But
Lebanon has to do something about Hezbollah, right?
That's right, 100%. But what is feeding Hezbollah? What is feeding the threat?
What is feeding Hezbollah is Iran.
To be there. Yeah, but if Lebanon is not being bombed, and why do we need Hezbollah if they're not being bombed? The minute that they start getting bombed and people fear, they're going to put money in the hands of Hezbollah. That's how it works.
Okay, thank you. But no victory. You don't see any victory. You see more of the same old.
It's time to
American imperialism
Now you know,
is what I would take away from the last two callers. That's it for hour number one. Full hour just ahead. This is News Radio.
668-2577.
Have your say. Yes, we'd really like you to have your say. We have every single phone line available right now as we begin hour number 2 of Talkback. Welcome to it. I'm Rob Snow. We're talking about the ceasefire, 2-week ceasefire announced last night on social media by U.S. President Donald Trump. And in the morning hours of today at the Pentagon, the United States Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, declared victory for the United States over Iran. And what we've been asking today is that how you see it? Do you view this ceasefire agreement as the United States winning this war? Yes, no, why not? 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. So again, let's listen to a little bit of what Pete Hegseth had to say during this briefing at the Pentagon. Let's roll clip 1 again, please.
Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. As the President truth this morning, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital V military victory.
A capital V military victory. They were begging for a ceasefire, and everybody knows it. Victory with a capital V. Historic victory on the battlefield. Let's listen to a little bit more. Again, the United States Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. Clip number 2, please.
By any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come. You see, in less than 40 days, one of our combatant commands, Central Command, CENTCOM, using less than 10% of America's total combat power, dismantled one of the world's largest militaries. The world's leading state sponsor of terrorism proved utterly incapable of defending itself, its people, or its territory. We untied just a fraction of our strength, and Iran suffered a devastating military defeat.
A devastating military defeat, a victory with a capital V. Is that how you see it? Or do you see it a different way? Opinions are all over the place so far. I was very busy in the first hour of the program. We have lots of lines available. We would like to know your opinion. We would like to know your views on this war and where things stand. You have the United States Secretary of Defense essentially declaring a great victory for the United States over his longtime enemy, Iran, saying the United States did severe damage to Iran's military capabilities, is saying it can't build missiles. So that's been essentially been destroyed. Its Navy and Air Force, catastrophic losses, total decapitation of the leadership of Iran. And one of the main objectives was to make sure Iran could never have a nuclear weapon. And according to the Secretary of Defense, that threat has been eliminated. That is, as I say, that is the framing of the American position today. Iran's military destroyed, senior leadership eliminated, can't make a nuclear weapon anymore. Victory with a capital V. Total victory. Historic victory on the battlefield. How do you see it? How do you see it? Because not everyone we've heard from today sees it that way. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Now, just wrapped up at the White House, Caroline Leavitt, who is the press secretary, the White House press secretary, and she was taking some questions, as you can imagine, lots of questions for the press secretary at the White House today on this ceasefire, where things go from here. Let's play a little bit of that.
Caroline, two questions for you. First, following the president's announcement of the ceasefire, if this is indeed the end of hostilities in Iran, what is the president's message to the American people about what was achieved for our country through Operation Epic Fury?
Sure. I think I just laid out a significant portion of that in my opening remarks. 6 weeks ago, the president looked the American people in the eye directly, and he told them that he launched this operation to take out the imminent threat that was posed by Iran. And that threat has now been greatly destroyed. Their Navy, their missiles, their defense industrial base, and their desire and their plan to build a nuclear bomb inside their country is no longer going to be allowed, can no longer happen, thanks to the remarkable success of Operation Epic Fury over the course of the last 38 days. That has been absolutely achieved, and now we're moving into the next phase of this, which is a negotiating period to put some fine points on this and to hopefully broker an agreement that can achieve long-term peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, and then second, what is the president's message to American seniors who have a much higher voter participation rate and they're likely to be a key swing vote in the midterm elections?
Well, the president loves our seniors across the country, and as you know, the president signed the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut last year, which greatly reduced taxes on Social Security for our seniors. In fact, thanks to the Working Families Tax Cut, nearly 90% of seniors will no longer pay tax on their Social Security. That's a huge win for our seniors and also for our middle class and working families across the country with the no tax on tips provision and the no tax on overtime. Next week is tax week. You'll hear a lot from the president about how his policies have benefited the American people, and I'm proud to report that the president will be traveling next week to the great states of Nevada and Arizona to tout this historic accomplishment over the course of the next week. Thank you for being here, Shane. Gabe.
Thank you, Caroline. Iranian state media is saying that Iran has now closed off the Strait of Hormuz today in response to Israeli attacks on Lebanon. What's the White House response to that? And you just listed many military successes. I understand that. But strategically, how is the administration arguing that Iran does not have more economic leverage than it did before the start of the war?
Sure. Well, with respect to the first reporting out of Iranian state media, the president was made aware of those reports before I came to the podium. That is completely unacceptable. And again, this is a case of what they're saying publicly is different privately. We have seen an uptick of traffic in the Strait today, and I will reiterate the president's expectation and demand that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened immediately, quickly, and safely. That is his expectation. It has been relayed to him privately that is what's taking place, and these reports publicly are false.
Caroline, the president yesterday threatened that a whole civilization...
So that was from the White House. Just moments ago, that briefing wrapped up, lasted about 35 minutes. Rapid-fire questions from the White House press corps for the White House press secretary. And you heard Caroline Leavitt outline, these were the goals, and this is what we have accomplished. She didn't say it was victory with a capital V, but the defense secretary said that. How do you see it? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Okay, now that we've set the table, let's get some calls here. Abraham in Calgary up next. Hi, Abraham.
Hey, Rob, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you just fine, Abraham.
Awesome, Rob. So I think people are confusing this capital V victory for war. It's not for a war, it's for a ceasefire. And ceasefire is when both countries that are at a war are asking for a ceasefire. Because I know you've been following this war for the past 2 months, so is everybody else. America has been taking a lot of damage, and so is Iran as well. And this war is not leading anywhere. It's going to be a war that ended up like Afghanistan, that they will be fighting for 2 years, and there is no victory. So America came to their senses, and they're saying that, yes, I think it's time to ask for a ceasefire. And for Iran as well. I think it benefits both countries to end this ridiculous war who Israel is behind it. And this war is Israel's war. It wasn't even the United States. Israel is the one feeding all this crap intel to United States, and the United States is going on with this war. And the good thing about this war is that everybody has woken up, even your listeners, NATO, the entire world, because if you saw the European countries, none of them backed America. France closed their airspace on Israel. Spain said we're not going to be a part of it. So did Britain. And I think there are some good things about this war that has came, and it's unfortunate that so many innocent people are dying for no reason. And that's the whole thing about war, is that innocent people are the ones that are paying the cost.
I understand that, but would it not be a good thing if there was a change in Iran from what has been there since 1979? Wouldn't that be a step in the right direction for the world?
Here's the thing, Rob. We're living in Canada. We have no idea what Iran is like. And we're sitting here and deciding what's good for Iran. Who are we to decide what's good for Iran, or even for America, or even for Israel, for anybody? That's what we did in Afghanistan, right? The entire world went and they're like, oh, yeah, what happened after 20 years? Where is Afghanistan right now? Where is Iraq
I understand
right
that.
now?
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. I do appreciate your point of view, sir. I really do. I don't necessarily share it. I mean, I've heard from Iranian Canadians who have called this show, and they, they're happy with what's happening. They're praying for a United States victory on this. They're praying for some new kind of government to take over in that country. They hate the government that's there now.
There are people that hate the government. There will never be any country where 100% of the population agrees with the government. Even during my time when I was living in COVID in Canada, I hated Trudeau. But so would it be right for us to say that a foreign government should have came and interfered and kicked Trudeau out? So many people hated Trudeau, even, and people who protested, they even labeled them as terrorists. A country that they're saying there's free speech available in this country is a democracy country. People went and protested and they named them as terrorists. How is that even possible? So would it be safe for us to say, at that time, a country should have came and intervened and kicked out the government? There should have been a military action? Absolutely not. Again, who's these other countries to decide what's good for somebody else?
Okay. Thank you, Abraham. Yep, you've made your point, sir. Well, let's move along, though. Wayne up next. Hello, Wayne.
Hey, how's it going, Rob?
Yeah, good.
Hey,
what's your opinion?
I've been listening to some of your callers here, and I'm not sure how old they are, but I'm mid-50s here. I lived through the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s with the terrorism that Iran funded. The last caller talked about the innocent people dying there. And yeah, that's horrible. But how many innocent people have died due to the dollar that Iran has put on terrorism, whether it be funding Hamas or ISIS or all the rest of it? This was happening long before Trump, and I think more often than not, Trump derangement syndrome kicks in on some of this stuff. Yeah, I'm not his biggest fan either. I think he's a bit of a nut job, but he's a nut job.
Well, certainly, there's certainly an anti-Israel component to it as well.
Yeah, there is.
I think that's evident.
And you hear that all the time. And when you're a country that's been attacked as often as they have, they're definitely going to be on edge. And Iran has been the big cause of that. And people think it's Iran's against America. No, Iran's against West. The extremists are against the West, and like you just said, there is Iranian friends. There's Iranian people. I've got Iranian friends that are ecstatic about what's happening over there. They're so glad that their families could be safe. One of your callers said that the president can walk through the streets. You bet he can walk through anywhere he wants, because if you say anything against him, you're killed. So they're not pacifists out of love. They're pacifists out of fear, and you can't compare what Trudeau and Carney are doing, what we feel they're doing to Canada, maybe Albertan, what they're doing to us, to having to worry about whether your wife or daughter is going to get killed for any number of small mistakes they may make. And yeah, I've never been there, but I know enough to talk to my friends enough to know the fears they lived with.
Okay.
We can't compare.
So let's circle back, though, because the original question is, what about what we're hearing from the Secretary of Defense, who says this is victory with a capital V? This is a historic victory on the battlefield.
I think it's a military victory. I think they've knocked the military capabilities of Iran down quite a few pegs. Will you ever have an ideological military or victory? I don't think so. That ideology is always going to be there, but I think the states and Israel have done a pretty good job of removing the tools that these guys can use to have that. Now, do we have a financial victory? Okay. No, because we're paying $1.60 for gas, or $1.80 or $2. Financially, we're getting screwed, and yeah, that could be a big component of it. Is it with his threats and everything else was trying to get this to stop hurting the Western economies. But
okay, thank you
again. I heard
you. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. We're just running out of time, so we're going to have to run there. Wayne, you make some very valid points, as did the caller before, Abraham. Even though the two really don't share the same view of the events of the last 24 hours of the last 2 months. Keep those opinions coming, folks. That's why we do Talkback, so we can hear from you when these big stories break. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The United States is declaring victory in its war with Iran. The United States Secretary of Defense called it a historic victory on the battlefield. Victory with a capital V. Is that how you see it, or do you see it a different way? Elias up next in Kitchener today. Hi, Elias.
Bob, how are you?
Hi there. Very good. What's your opinion?
My opinion, I just want to say a little about the capital V, which his secretary is saying we won. That is a lie, because like 2 weeks ago, Trump said we won the war. But he didn't. He kept fighting. And when he couldn't do it, he called him in the European countries, NATO, come on, I need your help. It's just like calling 911. But they didn't respond to him. That's the way he lost this war. And finally, he got a break to get out of this mess when they say for 2 weeks ceasefire. If he won the game, if he won the war, he should have kept a long time ago. So that's the big lie. There's no V. There's no capital V. That's all I can say.
Okay. But is there a V at all, or is it just not a capital V?
capital V.
Because they're calling it a historic victory on the battlefield. You don't see it that way?
There is no historic victory.
There's no historic victory? No?
No, I don't think so. Why is they asking help for the NATO countries? Come on, I need help. Why is they asking them for help?
Well, his request for help is about trying to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and get the traffic flowing again through there.
But he couldn't do it. So he lost the game. He lost the war. There's no capital V. That is BS. He is lying.
Just BS. Okay. All right. Thank you, Elias. BS. It's BS. Sharif in Kitchener. Hello, Sharif. Is Sharif there? Sharif? No? Okay. Well, why don't we stop then? Because the next caller would only have about 30, maybe 40 seconds tops. I want to hear from people a little longer than that. You've waited long. I want you to have as much time as you possibly need to get your point across. The United States declaring victory in its war with Iran, a historic victory on the battlefield, victory with a capital V. Is that how you see it? The leading up next, but a very busy news day today, and not only with the ceasefire, there was a floor crossing today on Parliament Hill. Another Conservative MP leaving to go join the Liberals. That's a big news story today as well. Our news teams bring you right up to date on both. Coming right up on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Victory with a capital V. A historic victory on the battlefield. That's how it's being described by top Trump administration officials. The United States has won the war as the world enters this 2-week ceasefire in the Middle East. How do you see things? Is that how you see it, as a victory with a capital V, or do you see it in a different way? Right back to us with Melissa is in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Melissa. Go ahead.
Hi there. I would
Hi
say
there.
this is absolutely not a victory. I would challenge anyone to see, aside from harming some of their army and navy, anything they got out of this. Oil prices are skyrocketing. Iran now has control of the Strait of Hormuz, which it did not before. They now have a more extreme regime than they did before that's in charge. Thousands of people were murdered. It's destroyed the U.S. bases in the area. It's destroyed the relationships with the other countries in the area. It's destroyed NATO unity. And the billions of dollars they spent on it, they could have free health care in the U.S. with that money. It's ridiculous.
Okay. I'm not sure how much it has destroyed relationships with countries in the region, though.
Well, there was an awful lot of quid pro quo going on leading up to this war, and those neighboring countries thought they would be protected by the U.S. They've done nothing but suffer damages, and the U.S. totally let them down. So
I see. All right.
They have no confidence in the U.S. now, and neither does NATO.
Okay. Thank you,
The only
Melissa.
winner here is Putin.
Sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
The only winner here is Putin, because he's the only one who wanted this stuff.
All right, Melissa, thank you. Okay, Melissa, very emphatic, not a victory for the United States. Let's go to Roger then in Calgary. Hello, Roger.
Hi there. How's it going?
Yeah, very good, Roger. Thank you. What's your opinion here, Roger?
Well, actually, you know what? A lot of what your previous caller just said, it really does resonate with me. I do not think this is a victory in any way, shape, or form. All he's done is poke the bear. The bear will go back into the den for a little while. It'll, tuck tail and run for a little bit, regroup. The sun will probably come back, and there'll be another big major thing that's going to happen with the States or areas in there or Israel. It's not solved anything.
Okay. You hear them, though. They say, look, we have basically destroyed their military infrastructure. We've eliminated much of their senior leadership, and the claim is they'll never be able to make a nuclear weapon.
I think they may have set them back a bit, just like they did last time, because I seem to remember back in my past, like I'm in my 50s, I seem to remember back in the past they attacked them and didn't want them to have nuclear capabilities. Well, they're just going to come back again, right? They haven't changed the mindset of the regime that controls Iran. Now, I feel sorry for the Iranian people because they're kind of caught in the middle of it, but I don't think the Americans have done really anything to change the mindset. All they did is kill the father, the son took over, he's going to start a whole new thing. They're going to start right back at square one maybe, or maybe not quite back that far, and it's just going to happen again. They just pissed him off, and I'm afraid they're going to come back again, and maybe not in my time period, but maybe in my son's.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, for your opinion. So the previous two callers have mentioned a few things there. Melissa mentioned the cost, the enormous cost of the war. I mentioned this at the outset. The estimates that this war was costing $500 million to $1 billion a day was in the news just last week. The Pentagon wanted another $200 billion in war funding. Nancy Green, I believe her name was. No, Nancy Mace. Pardon me. Nancy Mace was one of the MAGA loyalists who kind of turned tail on that and scoffed at that $200 billion in war funding. And then it was in the news just in recent days that the Trump administration wanted to up total defense spending to $1.5 trillion and said it was willing to cut other government programs to make it happen. Maybe this war has cost $30 billion in about 6 weeks. And to Roger's point, what about the muddled messaging on regime change? You remember in the early days of the war, the Trump administration would say, it's not about regime change. We're not interested in regime change. We're not interested in a forever war. This will last 4 to 5 weeks. 6 weeks now, but it's not about regime change. Although Trump was encouraging Iranians to topple their government. Once in a lifetime opportunity, he called it. But then even just in the last week or so, he has been claiming that regime change has happened there. And that the people the United States is negotiating with are more moderate. They're not as radical as the regime that had been in place. But there are all kinds of reports that this is the same regime. And, to Melissa's point, it may be even more harsh. And to this day, this is the Islamic Republic of Iran, just as it was 6 weeks ago. It has still the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, just as it did 6 weeks ago. So is this a decisive victory for the United States? Victory with a capital V? What do you think? We'll take a break. We'll be right back with more of your calls at 1-833-668-2577. And lots of time to fit you in here on News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We will probably hear from U.S. President Donald Trump maybe within the hour, because at 3:30 Eastern, so in about 45 minutes from now, he is expected to have a meeting with the NATO Secretary General. That's Mark Rutte. And, of course, Trump has not had very good things to say about NATO as this war has gone on. But now there's a 2-week ceasefire, and you have people like the United States Secretary of Defense calling it a historic victory with a capital V. Is that how you see it? Let's go to Eric is in Halifax. Hi, Eric.
Hey, how you doing, Rob?
Yeah, good, Eric. Thank you. What's your opinion?
It's just a partial victory. Never mind that capital V, because that's a lot of BS. The last time the Americans won a war is when they stood on a battleship and said to the Japan, "What do you want?" And Japan said, "Well, what do you want?" And then Japan walked away. So that's the only V that they ever had. As far as what goes, Trump is putting on an air show and a naval show. Battles were decided on fields, not in the air or not at sea. So I think it's only a partial victory, and to make that statement about a capital V, that's a lot of baloney.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Eric. John in Paris, Ontario. Hello, John. First time caller, John. Thanks for calling. What's your opinion here, John?
My opinion is this is just armed robbery writ large. I don't know if other people will agree, but if a school bully goes and beats up a little kid, steals his money for lunch, what do you get? He's in trouble. When he went into Venezuela, he went in without announcing anything. He went in and killed hundreds of people and stole their oil. When he goes into Iran, he goes in and tries to steal it, but they fought back. It wasn't as easy as they thought it was going to be. So why does the world just sit back and let him keep doing this? That's just a question I'd like to get answered. Why do the idiots in the United States keep supporting this man?
Okay. There are just, to provide a bit of a counter argument here, when the situation unfolded in Venezuela, there were Venezuelans who cheered that on, who did not want to live under a brutal dictatorship under the Maduro regime anymore. And again, I come back to this. I've taken multiple calls from Iranian Canadians over the last 6 weeks who are thrilled that this is finally happening and that the United States is taking such action, sir. What about that?
Well, why are they here? Why are they not in Iran?
Well, they're here because they fled the tyranny of Iran.
But they didn't do anything about it. They just got out of the way.
Well, what can they do about it? If you go and protest in the street and get shot?
They can do. That's what Donald Trump wants them to do. Isn't it?
Well, Donald Trump has asked them to rise up and take control of their own government. Yes, to topple their own government.
To go in and take control.
That might be easier to do if the United States military has the senior leadership on the run. Would it not?
It would be a lot easier for them, but people just sit back and not relax, but they put up with this tyranny and don't do anything about it. It's going to keep happening.
You think the United States is... I understand, sir. You think the United States is the one perpetrating the tyranny here, right?
Well, not necessarily in Iran, but the tyranny is starting in the States. Or am I wrong?
All right. Appreciate your point, John. Let's take one more. Mustafar. Am I saying that right? Mustafar?
Hi, good afternoon, Rob.
Yes. Hi there. What's your opinion?
I don't think it's a victory for the United States of America. It's just a pause in the war. In fact, Iran has won because they still control that Strait of Hormuz, and they still have the upper hand. I think I'd like to comment on something some of the people said it before, that Iran is funding the terrorist organization. I want you to check it out. Who created the Hamas? Hamas was created by Israel to oppose PLO, and it was funded from Israel through Qatar. Same was in Afghanistan. Taliban were funded by United States of America. Once they won it, then things turned against them.
It depends on how far back you want to go. I mean, there were funds, flowing to those Mujahideen fighters in Afghanistan when the Soviets invaded, right? Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
I think
fair enough.
If the West leaves those countries alone, let them solve their own problems by their own people. And do not interfere in their internal politics. I think it will be better for everybody.
All right. right. Fair enough, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Very, very varied opinions today. But again, you have the rhetoric from the Pentagon that this is decisive, overwhelming victory, historic victory, victory with a capital V. How do you see it? All opinions are welcome. That's why we do Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
What a difference a day can make. Yesterday at this time, we were counting down the hours until that 8 p.m. Eastern deadline and trying to understand and appreciate that ominous tweet from Donald Trump. He's posting on Truth Social that said an entire civilization will die tonight. The markets were down, the oil price was up, and now there's a 2-week ceasefire. There's still all kinds of questions, even at this hour, about what is happening with the Strait of Hormuz and whether it's open and it's closed, and what does it take to go in to get tanker traffic through there again? How long will it take that to return to normal? Nevertheless, the financial markets are in a much better mood today. I'm looking at the TSX up 300 points. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up more than 1,000 points. The NASDAQ's up more than 500 points. And the oil price is down about 16 or so percent, and it's back below $95 a barrel, although that means it's still about 50% higher than it was before this war started. There are various reports that in some cities across Canada, there could be a big drop in gas prices, not tomorrow, but more likely on Friday. Like maybe as much as a 10 cents a liter drop on Friday. We'll be digging some more information on that for you. Let's go to Andy, though, in Calgary. It looks like Andy's going to get the last word today on this victory with a capital V claim that we've been talking about. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, very good, Andy. Yeah. So you hear it from the United States Secretary of Defense. He calls it a historic victory with a capital V. What do you think?
Yeah, he is right. There's a capital V, overwhelming victory, but not for United States. It is for Iran. That is the big victory. What happened is when USA said that entire civilization of Iran will die, immediately Iran vowed to obliterate the entire energy and oil and gas facility of Qatar, Saudi, Kuwait, and Bahrain. Guess what? USA could not protect with their Patriot missile the ability of Iran's hypersonic missile. So USA, Donald Trump was sure that he cannot protect the energy sector of these friendly countries. So Donald Trump, I will say, he surrendered. He did not win.
He surrendered?
Yes, absolutely.
This if I could, sir, I'm just, because this is the first time I've heard of this, that Iran threatened to destroy all, you're basically saying they threatened to destroy all the energy infrastructure in the Gulf. Right?
Exactly. That's what was the
retaliation. I haven't heard that.
That was
Where did
what
you hear that?
They said. And see, the Western medias are not covering this. It's all, if you go to an unbiased media, they will say what Iran is saying and what Iran can do with their hypersonic missile. So when Israel threatened that every Iranian should stay away from the train system, that means they will blow up the transport system. They showed by blowing up a massive bridge. What USA has done over the month is blown up the concrete structures in Iran. They could not destroy the entire missile system that they have. They have in thousands hypersonic missiles still capable of destroying the entire Gulf infrastructure. So that is what it is.
All right. I'm. This is the first I'm hearing of that, sir. So I will take your word for it. And surrender. You say the United States has surrendered, and it's not victory with a capital V. Opinion has been all over the place today, and we welcome all opinions on Talkback. Brand new topic tomorrow, and more of your calls. And the news day is far from over. The latest breaking news is coming up next here on News Radio.